Hello and welcome. We've been celebrating the fact that the Indian men's hockey team has qualified to play the 2012 London Olympics. Now, some of us have already started dreaming of a medal. Others hail this as the revival of the national sport, and still others caution that there is a long way to go. Whatever it is, the consensus is that this is an inflection point. The man who has brought us or helped bring us to this pass and is now the man who is trusted in the strife-torn arena of Indian hockey management is the coach of the national hockey team, and he's my guest today on Beautiful People. Michael Nobbs, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for making all of us feel so good. Did you feel the weight of our expectations in that Olympic qualifying tournament, and especially on that Sunday of the final against France?
Every day, everyone tell me, you have to qualify, you have to qualify. I said, I do know that. I've only had, 20, 30,000 people tell me. And it was the last day. I mean, we had prepared so well, it's been 6 months. We knew we'd done the work, we knew we'd done everything, but the little what if in sport, what if we've missed something, was, it always plays on your mind. And so the day of the final was pretty nerve-wracking. It was the longest day of my life.
Now that we've qualified, psychologically, what is the challenge? Because there is a sense of an achievement, and yet there is so much more to do.
The biggest thing is to be realistic now. The teams that we're playing have spent many years, last 6 years or so, preparing for this Olympic Games. We've been preparing for 6 months. There's been a lot of things go wrong in hockey in the last 30 years, and everyone outside the world, outside of India, has actually seen it. And now we're trying to repair it and fix it. And the good thing is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can do things a lot faster than having to wait 30 years or even 5 years, So we have an awful lot of work to do now to catch the top 6 or 7 teams in the world. But we can do it. But can we do it in this short space of time? It's a little unrealistic, but we'll have a good go at it. Can we do it in the 5 years that I've got? Absolutely, because we've got the one thing other nations, admire us for, is we've got talent.
Is it harder to manage everybody else's expectations, or is it also as hard to manage the players' expectations?
Players' expectations are easy. When they get an ego problem, we just train them harder and hurt them. Everybody else has the expectation, but the players are not the problem. The players know how hard it is. They know the depths you sink to when you don't qualify. They know the highs of winning. They know how hard it is to win. And so their expectations are that every single step they take on the training track is one step closer to an Olympic Games, to give themselves an opportunity or a chance to do as well as they can. And that's all we can ask of them.
Let's talk about the physical aspect now, because that's something that I've been getting in all the conversations that you've had so far with the media, and that is the athletic levels, or the levels of athleticism that are low and that need to be worked on. 146 days, is that enough to now ramp up that level of fitness to another grade?
To some degree it is. When we first came, we analysed the players and found they were 8 to 10 kilos lighter than our European or Australian counterparts, and that's a function of nutrition and all the rest of it. We've gone a reasonable way. Our players are 3-4 kilos heavier with more muscle mass, and we won't have enough time before the Olympics to get to that level. But certainly our fitness levels have improved dramatically. And that's due to David John, who is our exercise physiologist and sports scientist, because he brings with him the knowledge of Australian sports science. So as I said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just bring the experts in and learn from that.
We are in the Sports Authority of India Centre in Bangalore, and you've started off the next camp over here. Couldn't we assume that the 18 guys who played in that Olympic qualifier would be the guys who would be picked for the Olympic team, would make the team that would play the Olympics finally?
Well, look, they've got a front-running position, but we've got a squad of players, and you never know what's going to happen. Look, there could be injuries, it could be out of form, and as I said, I'm not picking a team on reputation. It's picked on pure form, and plus
at a point of time.
At a point of time. And it has to be. I can't, you can't rely on somebody who's out of form suddenly turn up to the Olympics and I'm going to play well. I mean, it's never happened in my playing history. It's usually they let you down at that point in time. So we've got a number of trials, we've got a number of test matches, a number of tournaments before we actually physically walk onto the pitch in the Olympic Games.
But given that they have achieved what they have, given that they've had this training now for 6 months, that they've played together as a team, they've ticked off this big goal that was in front of them, wouldn't it be easier to work with them than to expand the pool to include all these other guys?
Oh no, the pool isn't that big, I can assure you.
48 players is not so big.
But we've also got to remember that we've got another bunch of tournaments as well. We've got an Aslan Shah on at the same time as a pre-Olympic tournament, plus we've got a junior competition on at exactly the same time as well. So we're not only trying to pick this Olympic team, but we're also picking the players of the future as well. Because directly after the Olympics, you've got the Lanko Series, you've got the Champions Trophies. It doesn't stop. Olympic Games is not the end point. Our end point is 5 years' time when we stand on the #1 dais with a gold medal. That's our aim.
Is this the way it works everywhere else?
It works in Australia that way, and I think our results in Australia are pretty good compared to the rest of the world.
That's a classic understatement, isn't it?
Yes.
A lot of people, including the Minister for Sports, Ajay Markan, and veteran Olympians, actually say that the timing of this camp here in Bangalore and the fact that you have so many players was Hockey India's way of thwarting the World Series Hockey League that has just started. What do you say to that?
I think most of that's a lot of nonsense, to be honest. We're running this program with the complete backing of the Sports Authority of India, and they've given me tremendous assistance all the way down the line. The program that I've instituted for the last 6 months, everything I have said has happened. I haven't been wrong in any particular instance, and I think I know what I'm doing. The Olympians we talk about, that's history. You know, I'm an old, fat Olympian. It's all history. You know, this is a different world, it's a different game, and I'm trying to get India back to where it should be. You know, the comments that I hear are just reflections of the past, where India has failed for many, many years. And these are comments that are just the same things I've heard over the last 30 years. They don't work.
When you hear statements that say that playing a league like that would give Indian hockey players a chance to make money, to generate interest in the sport with people, to get sponsors going, and therefore give the sport a big fillip or impetus, you don't buy that at all?
Well, at this point, I've got no comment on it at all. We'll wait and see what happens. You know, my job and focus is the Olympic team. I don't have time to worry about all the rest of that. My focus is on building the junior, is building the base. And when I said when I first got appointed, I said my job is to build the base. You know, we can't go around having one Indian team. If you do, you're doomed to failure. The results show that over the years. If we replicate the Australian system, and I hate bringing up Australia, but you know, if you want to be the best, copy the best. You know, they've got 2 teams that could finish first between 1 and 3 at the Olympic Games. You know, the Australian A team beat the Dutch national team 3-1 2 weeks ago. That's the 2nd team for Australia. You know, and Holland's ranked 2nd or 3rd in the world. So, and as I said right at the start, I have to build the base. You can't build the base by just having a few players. I want at least, you know, I want 33 seniors, 33 development, 33 junior and 33 sub-junior, you know, and with that base, that'll carry on to the future. So, you know, my job is clearly focused on what I've done in the last 6 months and what I'm doing now. I'm not really interested in any of the rest of it.
It's a distraction.
It's a complete distraction, yes.
So you're categorical that the concerns you had in November, that's before India qualified to play the Olympics, are as strong today now that we have qualified and have a chance to play in the Olympics?
Correct. The fact that we've only got 145 days left to the Olympics says that. You know, it's not a lot of time. You know, other nations have spent years preparing, and we're going to take out 6 weeks and give them to other people with the coaches, who knows how good they are, but they're going to be doing different styles of play. The fitness levels, the nutrition levels, the chance of injury, the monitoring of what we do with biochemistry is all missing. So we don't get to see them. Then they get given back to us again in what sort of state? Now, I think the people of India deserve more than that. They're spending a lot of money on our program, and they deserve the absolute best they can probably get out of it.
The Sports Authority of India is your employer. I was just going to ask you, how do you negotiate between parties that seem to be bickering? Because just before you got here, we heard statements from Hockey India saying that, if the Sports Authority of India is not willing to firm up their plans quickly, we will go to the Madhya Pradesh government. I mean, where is all this coming from? And how do you cope with this around you?
Look, this is India. This is incredible India. You just do what you need to do. So the Sports Authority of India, and if I can say their names, the Director General and Dr. Kashyap, they are been great supporters. And Hockey India has been a great supporter as well, and the people of India have been great supporters. It's working the way it should work. We have achieved exactly what we set out to achieve in the 6 months, regardless of everything that's happened. And we're not going to let anything distract us or take our focus away.
But isn't that easier said than done? Because if I pick up a newspaper, I really wonder how you go to work every day, because every day, in the office sounds like it's a minefield. So
I work in the best sandbox in the world with the best players who want to do the same thing every single day and have an absolute passion for it. I mean, we're not distracted by any of that.
You can tune out the administrative wrangles that are happening around you, whatever it is.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It'll all work its way out. It's not a problem at all. We get out there and we do the thing we love best. And there's no distractions in that area.
When I watched the final that India won 8-1 against France, and I'm not an expert, I've already made that disclosure to you. I was wondering why we had so many goals that came through the penalty corner and not the field goal. Is that what it's called?
Yes,
the field goal, yeah. Isn't that more exciting, and isn't that really what would bring you and the team great joy?
Everybody says all these things, but they really don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Let me explain. Even though we're playing, this whole tournament was to win, we said certain objectives were set by us. We were, and even during the tournament, we have different goals as well. In the finals, it was we were 2 goals that we set. The first one was to make a statement to the people of India to say, this is who we are. And I think we made that emphatically. The last game, prior to this and the final, we said, look, let's start trying for penalty corners. We're wasting too many field shots where in circumstances it would be just as easy to force a penalty corner instead of have a difficult field shot where the chances of scoring are unrealistically remote. So let's down up playing for penalty corners, and the result was there.
No, absolutely. I'm just curious as a viewer, when I was watching it, is it more difficult to score field goals, and is that because of a weak attack on our side, or is that because of great defense from the opponents?
No. There's different areas of the circle that give you a different percentage in scoring. If having shots at the top of the circle is only a 14% success rate, and yet we sometimes continually try to do that, where 60-odd% of goals are scored from in front of goals. So some of the times we're having shots from positions which have a very low percentage, Therefore we need to work on areas to get the ball to the areas where there's a greater percentage. So even though we're playing finals and all the rest of it, we're still working through those situations in difficult circumstances as opposed to just training, and that gives you practice. And that's what we did in the final as well.
So it's all very scientific.
It's extremely scientific to a lot of degrees. Yes, it is.
All this talk about the fact that Michael Nobbs has reintroduced the Indian team and the Indian public to what is traditionally the Indian way of playing hockey. Was it difficult to get players to unlearn what they had been taught before you came back and said, guys, let's do it the way you used to do it, two generations ago?
It was an interesting thing. When I first came, I was a bit disillusioned because I thought, oh my goodness. And it was on this pitch here, and I was watching them, and I was thinking, we've got a lot of fat, we've got a lot of slow, we've got a lot of old players. Half the group are playing European style, half them are playing a 30-year-old Indian style. This is going to be fun. But once we started to improve the fitness levels, it became apparent that it's not going to be as hard as what I thought, because in the inherent nature of what we learnt when we were kids was easier to bring out and unlearn the processes of the European style that was trying to be imposed on them.
Which is more defensive.
Which is more defensive, you know, and we've done the analysis of the previous Indian teams compared to this team, and it was clearly very defensive compared to this team.
For someone like you, you've been an Olympian player, you've represented Australia, you're now a coach. How do you pick the assignments? What when you came in for this job, there were other people vying for the same job. I'm trying to say here that sports people are not like other humdrum professionals where it's just the money or it's just the perks.
Look, it's a really interesting question. Sometimes the universe just bashes you in the head enough times to say this is what you should do. I've always wanted to do this, but I've had a business in Australia and my kids and all the coaching stuff, and I love to fix problems with clubs and things like that, and I've been really successful in all of those things, and I kept saying no, I won't do it because of my business, because of my kids and all the rest of it. And then two of my friends, Pargat Singh and SS Greywall, rang me and said, look, would you like to come and coach up in the Punjab? I said, love to, I'd love to do that, it's great. And then when I've arrived here, they said, and you put your name down to coach India as well. I've gone, great, okay.
You come from a family that's filled with sportsmen and women, isn't it? So your wife is an Olympian hockey player, your daughter plays hockey, another daughter plays, is a figure skater. So what do you discuss over dinner table? Is it hockey and only hockey?
It's hockey and how much figure skating costs. And it's always hockey. It always comes back to hockey.
Does your wife think you're doing a good job?
She's loving it because she knows how much I love it. She just thinks, if you do the thing you love and you enjoy it, just keep on doing it. It's a bit tough because she's in Australia. She has to be because our daughter's a figure skater and the Russian coaches are in Sydney, so she has to live in Sydney. So the distance is a bit of a problem, but they did come up here for the qualifiers.
For moral support, is it, or was it more than that?
Well, it was a little more than that. It was moral support. My wife was helping do the statistics that I use. At half time you would have seen a little girl, that's my daughter, running down and giving me a couple of pieces of paper. Well, that's the statistics that are on the game that I use.
We are sitting in this burning heat under the hot Bangalore sun. This is a quiet place, and it reminds me of what Muhammad Ali said, and I have a quote. He says, the fight is won or lost far away from witnesses, behind the lines, in the gym and out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights.
Absolutely perfect.
What is it that marks out a person who has this desire to succeed in sports, as different from the desire to succeed in anything else?
Passion. The passion for what you do. And Steve Jobs, I think, said recently before he passed away, the things that you do well and that you love over the years become a greater love. And I think that's what we bring. People say you must be dedicated to get out there and run in the cold and the wind and the hot temperatures, but to us sportsmen we never look at it that way. We just think it's the best thing we could possibly do. It might hurt at the time, but where we're going is the most important thing, and it's great. It's just the passion.
In India, there is a lot of concern that we don't treat great sportsmen and athletes the way they should, and very often you have people's lives end in, champions whose lives have ended in misery. Does Australia do things differently? Do other countries who are good at sports do things differently?
We're far more ruthless. We are far more ruthless than India. We just dropped Ricky Ponting.
Yeah.
We didn't ring him up and say you're a revered national hero. We should treat you nicely. Sorry, you're gone. He'll be fine. You just move on with your life. Everyone gets dropped. There's never been a senior player that turns around and said, I didn't deserve to be dropped.
After winning that qualifier, you said that in a month's time you would let us know how India would fare at the Olympics.
Okay, what I meant by that very simply is we haven't had an opportunity at this point to play any of the top teams.
Which you will in London
in the pre-Olympic
in the
tour.
test.
Correct. So that gives us a point, exactly as I said when I first started, when we played the Asian Champions Trophy. I didn't know where we stood. Are we terrible? and which means we can get better? Are we average, or are we really good and we're on the way? And it's the same thing applies from this point on. We haven't played the top teams. We don't know where we stand. If we're terrible, we've still got a little bit of time to fix some of the problems. If we're good, well, let's hope we are. And it'll give us a bit of a realistic idea of where we actually sit at the moment. At this point, it's just, it's guesswork.
Michael Nobbs, we wish you all the very, very best.
Thank
and
you.
We're looking forward to see how you keep fixing this problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.